Go tell other people what you need help with. We all sit in our shells and we don't share. So I would just say, get out there and share. Tell your friends and family what your goals are. Have them laugh at you. If they do, it's good. That means your goals are big enough. And find a coach, find a mentor, anything.
We all exit our company eventually. The question is, will it be on your terms or someone else's? Strategy matters. Timing matters. The right partner changes everything. Brought to you by Meritage Partners. Here is your host, Brian Franco, author of The Inevitable Exit. This is the M&A Guy podcast.
Most freelancers think the goal is to get busier. More clients, more hours, more hustle. But busier isn't and doesn't represent or translate to getting bigger. And it's definitely not the same as a sellable company. I'm Brian Franco, founder and CEO of Meritage Partners and host of the M&A Guy podcast. Today, we're going to be talking with Hypeman Ken. We're going to dive into this. Today's episode we titled very carefully and very specifically for Ken and the things that he does from freelancer to founder, building and exiting a business that does not need you. So Ken, thanks for being on. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing so good. Every day better out here in Newport. Love it.
Yeah,
man.
a little switch in weather.
Oh, it's so much cooler out here.
But you can't beat where you are in Scottsdale. In the winter, I'd rather be there.
It definitely is great for all year round.
Yeah.
But then you come back here and you drink it in.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
It'll
We're doing
get you
great,
there.
man. Thanks for having me out. I'm stoked to be here. Stoked to talk to your audience.
Yeah. We've known each other for a few years and we met back when you founded Basecamp in, I think it was 2000.
2020.
2020?
Yeah.
2020. Thank you.
The year.
And it was an interesting year that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, in part, a lot of things were changing. So I decided to leave corporate and become an entrepreneur.
Awesome.
I think a lot of people did.
A lot of people
in
did
2020.
do that. Yeah. Yeah. I think what happened is people during that first conversion from in-person to virtual work, culture was lost in some instances. And, and really when you're sitting in the same room of your house, staring at the same computer screen, it's hard to build culture and be part of a culture. So people decided, well, I could stare at this computer screen waving any flag I want. The current company I'm working with, or I could go start my own company and wave that flag, right? And that's what some people did. And kudos to them because entrepreneurship in the US, was on a decline since the 1980s, believe it or not.
Wild.
And so we're seeing that change.
Well, and the idea of being a freelancer, I feel like in 2020, how many freelancers were born? Whether it was leaving a full-time job voluntarily or involuntarily, and or because like you said, you're at home, you're on your computer anyway, and it's hard to turn off. So why not start a side hustle? So many people did that. That's what I did.
Yeah. But now you're working on coaching and taking chaos and turning it into clarity for your clients, and really helping them, find that further purpose. It seems like not only in their business, but holistically in their life. Would you say that's
definitely
the work you're doing?
Yeah, I think to put that kind of plainly, this last year, going from being an operator, building, scaling, and having an exit, which we'll talk about today, and then moving into coaching and the idea of kind of building a media company, I realized, I'd say is, recently that I always thought it was about the business. And I was so focused on, I love business. Business is my sport. And working with all these different entrepreneurs, guiding them, coaching them, teaching them, sharing, building community.
Yeah.
And I realized it's not actually about the business, it's about the people. And that was a big part. And I love helping people. That's why I want to coach and teach. I've always been that way, and business is my sport. So that's the way that I channel that.
I like that.
But yeah, it's really about the people, not about the business.
Yeah, because we always talk about this and we always play with this question. There's no right or wrong answer, but I always ask, what comes first, right? Your culture or your processes in an organization?
Culture or process? I would say process.
Yeah, interesting.
I think it's probably more like an hourglass.
Yeah.
Where, you're starting out, let's say you're a freelancer, you're starting a business from scratch. You're building a little bit of culture to attract that initial layer, your initial tribe, right? But then at some point, you have the culture and then you need to keep growing. So you have to develop the process. So it kind of comes part of the culture in a way. I mean, at least that's how I've done it.
It's a mind-bending question. I ask this all the time, and it's fun to hear the answers but I have never heard anyone illustrate it as an hourglass, and you're spot on because it starts, whoever answers the question, it starts either culture or process, right? But to your point and to your illustration, it does hourglass into the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of quit corporate and started a company with the idea. I had this novel idea of creating an environment where team members could thrive. And that word to me is like, it's the combination of like happiness and joy and being able to express yourself. So I wanted people to thrive. And that's how we like recruited people. It's like, hey, come work over here. What are you guys doing? Well, we're trying to thrive. do you want to thrive? Like the culture brought them in, and then you build it and you build that process. But definitely, like you have to be a culture first organization. Especially if you're new, you're competing on culture. You're not competing on benefits. You're competing on culture. So it's definitely important.
Yeah. You see that with companies like Disney, right? They attract a certain culture.
For sure. I mean, that's a great illustration.
It's a great illustration. But even Disney has they have had their problems with figuring out how to hire the younger generation because, they went from, I'll work for Disney. I'll do whatever it takes. Just give me a chance, give me a job too. So Disney, what's your PTO and what's a 401k look like? And Disney's like, well, wait a minute, we're Disney. Everyone's wants us,
Yeah.
So we've seen that.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's a good example. It reminds me of one of my other like kind of mantras for building a company is I want to be big enough to make an impact, but stay small enough to care.
Yeah.
So to me, like Harvard Business Review did a study, and I want to say they said it was around 60 employees. Culture starts to degrade in the organization. And I read that and I felt 60, gosh, that's still a lot of people.
Yeah.
How about more like 30?
Yeah.
And in my mind, it's something like, for me, in my businesses, in my empire of businesses, I don't really ever want more than 2 levels of management within the broader org. There might be multiple companies.
Right.
Some of them are interacting even. But like, if you get past the point where you have more than 2 levels of management, then you just naturally become disconnected.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's 30 people or 60 people, but it's definitely a part of like the structure for me is you can work at Disney, you can work anywhere.
Yeah.
But if you're waking up and having fun, living every day better, trying to live in that lifestyle, keeping that culture in the business as you grow is really important.
It is. Yeah, we had a client, it was a professional service company. They were when I met them in 2011, there were about 300 people in their firm. And they had access to capital, their business was flourishing, and they would only acquire companies of less than 12 people. That's it. And so I asked the CEO at the time, I says, you could buy anything. Like, why do you focus on this? And he says, we don't want to dilute our culture. If I go out and I buy 30-person firm and I'm 300 people, that's 10% dilution of my culture. He says, I don't want that to happen. I want them to come into our ecosystem, into our culture and learn how to behave like we behave.
Love that.
And so he always felt like if he bought anything larger than that, 10% of his overall company would be a problem. So they grew and they grew and they grew. They're now about 750 people. And the last deal we did with them was a 45-person firm. So
maintain the standard.
Exactly, maintain the standard. And so we had this particular client I stood in contact with for several years. And so we sold the company. He signed a 2-year employment agreement and he ended up staying there 5 years. And he says, I loved it so much. I stayed beyond my commitment. And so the business continued to grow and he kept some equity in the company. So the money he kept in the business was actually more valuable than the initial transaction that we did several years ago.
Lovely.
And so it was a big win, a strong case study.
Do you have any thoughts on, my comment about size and culture? I mean, that's a great example of having a company with 700 people in it that the founder, owner, entrepreneur, or whatever wants to stay in the business.
I think what happens, and I'd love to get your opinion, but as you were talking earlier, I was thinking of, if you could keep your pods to 20, 30 people, And if you could replicate that in other parts of the country or other parts of the world,
Mhm.
where there's a collective of all of these pods at some frequency throughout the year, I think that works. I mean, we have people in Tennessee, we have people in California, we have people in the Midwest, Florida,
Yeah.
all over the country. But, we still collect together and build on top of that. But what do you think? What do you think you said how many, 20 or 30? 30?
Well, I think I was saying Harvard Business Review said 60.
60.
For me, it just feels like if thriving is the priority,
Yeah.
true thriving, meaning part of when I onboard people and part of the culture I set in the business is their dream needs to live within my dream.
Yeah.
It's just part of the process
Yeah.
of them onboarding, part of the process in setting up their career development plan, their long-term future. And it isn't necessarily that their dream has to be in the business either. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I love building multiple things. And surely I want to attract people who are growth-minded. So if they say, oh, well, then someday I would love to run my own company, music to my ears. Great. Glad I know now. How do we work together in any of my businesses so that you can create the opportunity for yourself down the road? Maybe it's 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, whatever it might be, but to create space for them in the ecosystem. So, how far can you do stuff like that at scale, and how much does that matter, over time if you're trying to really create, enterprise value for an organization? I think there's something that is like a dream state, and then maybe there's reality, but just trying to really keep that thrive culture for me is top of mind.
Yeah, it's interesting that Harvard Business Review came back with 60. Don't
quote me on that. It was
about that. But you always want to look at the case and which companies did they look at?
Sure.
Were they service businesses? Were they professional services businesses?
Yeah.
Blue collar? Was it manufacturing, software? What was it? Healthcare,
Mhm.
right? Because I could see an environment of, let's say, a healthcare organization. They're working very closely together, and I could see that being 60 and still holding its culture. Yes.
Mhm.
I could see an elevator service company holding its culture at 60 people.
Yeah.
I could see a law firm doing the same, right? But there are some industries where I think, you would lose that culture, and especially, I'm going to think about this one. You actually got me on this one. I like it. I really like it.
Yeah. It's just one of those kind of first principles things, and you try to hang on to them as you build and scale and learn, but just trying to, keep that thrive mentality top of mind is fun.
That's cool. I want to talk about your exit.
Okay.
You ready?
Sure.
So you grew Basecamp. You started in 2020. You had over 200 founder-led clients there.
We did. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you exited successfully in 2025?
Mm-hmm.
So walk us through what made that business transferable, because that's a theme I always talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And enough to actually sell it, because as you know, most service businesses, they never get there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So tell us your story. How did you do it?
Let's see. We started, it was fun. We sort of started out doing whatever we wanted to do. We had diverse backgrounds, and we just wanted to create a future for ourselves. So Anthony and I, we started Basecamp late 2020, and the first kind of 2.5 years were us figuring out how to be entrepreneurs.
Mm.
So we had a variety of different services. We were trying to build multiple divisions at the same time. I was consuming books like food, just how fast can I learn all this stuff? And it was so much fun. And in the early days, we were making good money because we were the ones doing most of the client work, as most entrepreneurs are.
Yeah.
And after about 2 years of that, we would meet strategically all the time. And I said, as the CEO and co-founder, I'm like, we need to build something that can scale, because this is all really fun, but these services that we're doing are difficult to scale. We can't stay in a straight line long enough. And so at the time, we were doing a lot of strategic finance, helping consumer brands, startups, raise capital, do accounting, financial modeling, all that stuff. And so we had decided to do accounting, which was kind of ironic because it was one of the things we didn't want to do when we started. We whiteboarded all the things that we could do. And we're like, we want to have fun, and maybe we're not going to start out with that, So once we decided we're gonna scale accounting, this is a repeatable service. It's a service that all businesses need, and our clients are asking for it. And so we scaled that from 0 to over 100K MRR and I want to say around 18 months.
Wow.
Once we like put our foot down, we're like, this is what we're doing. We're going to de-index everything else, focus all our time on this one thing, and really just go deep on it. And it worked. And then we were able to build the pods, scale the business. And when we started, you talk about, entrepreneur intention when you start. Do you start to exit? Do you start for cash flow? Do you just start? And I think for me, I had worked in corporate for so long. I just started the business like I'm just here to have fun. I'm here to make money. I want to help people. This is all new for me. And somewhere along the way, I realized once we started to surpass being a 7-figure agency and we started getting unsolicited offers, then the idea enters your head of like, oh, I may have created something here with enterprise value. This is interesting. And then you start thinking about the possibilities. You go through the process of learning like, oh, what is this? And we went down the path with a couple different groups and, ended up not doing it.
Yeah.
The one thing I'll say for the audience, at least from my experience, is deal making's hard. Like after doing a couple laps with a couple different groups, we're just like, gosh, this is fatiguing, because it sounds so simple and as a promise, as a story, and then you kind of get into it and it's challenging. So anyway, we created something of value, and my co-founder was the CFO and I was the CEO, but I had always seen an opportunity for him to run the business. So we kept getting these offers, and what we ended up doing at the end is we were going down the path with one company, and my co-founder called me and said he was going to go forward with the business, and I was going to sell my side. So the business was still going to go forward. Yeah, I was going to exit. He was going to go forward. And he called me and basically said, like, could I actually just buy the company instead of us selling it, which is pretty savage. And I was like, well, that would be best case scenario really for everyone, for the employees, for the brand. It wouldn't get, immersed by another company. It would be the best opportunity for him to do the thing I'd always wanted him to do, which was become the CEO. And so we ended up just kind of doing a private deal. So it's sort of like an untraditional exit in that sense, but exited the business.
We call it an internal exit.
Internal exit, yeah. And so that was just like a new experience. So I have a little bit more after that, but yeah, I'll pause if you have any questions.
No, it's good because we've seen, I've had a client now, he was a guest on the podcast. He sold his business for about 80 million and 85 million. And he went about it on his own for the first 3 years and interviewed and met with a variety of investors and buyers. And eventually he would get to either he said no or they said no.
Right.
And he would say no because he felt he wasn't getting the value that the company deserved.
Sure.
So with every no he said or they said, he was taking an inventory of what they found that was wrong with the company from a transferability standpoint. And he had 3 years of this inventory. So he took it and implemented everything that he learned along the way.
Nice.
And so I say that, I know it's a bit self-serving, but that's exactly what we do within our Empire Builder system.
Yeah.
Right? We're teaching founders how to think like buyers and investors, because the simple way is underwrite to risk, because that's how investors underwrite. And if they see risk in a company, they're going to have to offset that risk with some sort of lever, whether it's deal terms or depressed enterprise value.
Sure.
And so what was interesting to do is to watch him go through these 3 years without any advice, any representation. And then finally, he was represented and he got the deal done, but no sooner than him learning the hard way. And so you look at a situation, a case study like that, it doesn't have to be painful. It doesn't have to cause brain damage. It doesn't have to create heartache, because there's a process, there's a structure. And I was reading an article the other day, 70% of underwriting by investors of businesses is done by AI. And so AI is a derivative of, human thought. But the human thought and the human process historically hasn't changed much, but you could do it faster, you do it more efficiently with less people. And so if AI is now underwriting 70% of private equity transactions and deals, who are you negotiating against? You're negotiating against AI, right? And so we developed a tool called Apple Bites. It's an AI-driven tool, takes the concepts of my book, and which was distilled down to 7 value drivers. Now, those 7 value drivers I determined came from my successes as a firm, but also early in my career, I had deals that fell apart. And so I studied those, and I wanted to know, well, what made that one successful? What made that one fall apart? And so that's how I came down to these 7 pillars, if you would.
Yeah.
And so now check this out. So our AI tool prepares you to now interact, negotiate with private capital money. That's, private equity groups, independent sponsors,
Yeah.
family offices. And if they're using AI to underwrite, well, we're using our AI tool to prepare you for their AI tool.
Mm-hmm.
And so the outcome of that is you have higher transferability and you achieve a higher enterprise value. And one thing that you said that really resonated with me when it came to you having the realization that your company was valuable and you're receiving offers, were they unsolicited, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah, unsolicited offers.
Mhm.
So you now know you've created something that's valuable that
Right.
the market wants.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what was valuable about what you created was the MRR, the monthly recurring revenue
Absolutely.
is predictable revenue.
Yep.
And investors, again, are underwriting a risk. And if they could understand how the revenue is predictable, and this is why even software companies are so valuable, is because
100%.
it's
Yeah.
every month
Mhm.
per seat or per license, year after year after
Yeah.
year.
MRR and retention.
And retention, right?
Mhm.
And so when you think about investors from that perspective and how they underwrite, you've created something valuable because you have predictable revenue streams
Absolutely.
in Basecamp.
No, and I love your perspective on that and how you're contributing to the
Yeah.
to the economy of entrepreneurs
Yeah.
because in my case I wasn't prepared. And definitely those first couple of transactions we looked at was a complete learning experience, and we weren't at the size and scale where we
Correct.
could retain a law firm. So being prepared for that as you're entering or growing or scaling, and understanding all that, I think it is important. Even if you're just understanding it at a high level, the Apple Bites product
Correct.
sounds super cool, by the way, but
Yeah.
even if you're just understanding at a high level to know what to expect and some of the decisions, because it's complicated. I mean,
is complicated.
cap tables and equity and taxes,
Yeah.
it's complicated.
Yeah.
The
There's a lot of
valuation
dimensions.
can
Yeah.
even be challenging
That's
just
right.
to get a deal started. But so no, I think that's great. And we were talking earlier about the age of entrepreneurship, and at least from what I've observed, it's starting earlier and earlier. My son's 14,
Yeah.
started his first business at 11,
That's cool.
and he's an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And you see all these young entrepreneurs now. So I think everything that you're talking about is really valuable, because if some of us had whatever 20 or 30 years of our potential arc of entrepreneurship, the deals we could get done, the things we could do, some of these younger generations might have 50 or 60 years of entrepreneurship. Like
Right.
you could do twice the amount of deals. You could
Yeah.
do, 3 times the amount of
Correct.
transactions. So understanding all that as really as possible, I think it's really valuable.
It's very cool. It's very cool. He was 11, huh?
He was
Yeah.
doing graphic design,
Graphic
which
design,
is
11 years old.
still a bit of what he's doing. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
homeschooled. So we decided to homeschool our
Very
kids
cool.
about 6 years ago or so. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
been just like an absolute blessing in the alignment of like homeschool and entrepreneurship as a family in our household. My daughter, who's 17, is also an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
She has a nonprofit. And my wife is an entrepreneur. So like
Yeah.
just having this like kind of homeschool entrepreneur environment, I sort of got some stuff started,
That's
and
so cool.
the kids kind of got raised in it. And
Yeah.
it's just a lifestyle. We would go to trade shows,
Yeah.
take the kids
Yes.
with us, help them open bank accounts, like just doing a lot of vocational real life stuff.
I love that. And I'm seeing more of this too. I was yesterday, I was asked to be on a podcast by a guy, and he says, okay, but here's the catch. The host is my 10-year-old son. So I'm going to be interviewed by a 10-year-old, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go look at this podcast and see what it's all about. But it's so cool because, we always hear, if you could explain what you do to a 10-year-old and they understand what it is, then you have to be ready for that.
Yeah.
And if you're not, you're going to stumble, you're going to fumble, they're not going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you could articulate what you do to a 10-year-old and have them ascertain it, then you should be in a position to let the world know what you do in a similar fashion, right?
I love that you said that. We've been talking a lot about trying to, talk at a 5th grade level.
Yeah.
With content and
Yes.
things like that, because you do need to make it sharp and concise. Like, just make it simple. And you find actually, if you study like a lot of viral content or leaders and things like that, you do find that just the way that they speak is very concise. It's understandable. It's not overly analytical or overly comprehensive, and that's the easiest way to communicate for sure.
I'm laughing because I have this ChatGPT health project. and I upload everything from my Garmin watch to my scale to my activities. And so I'll tell whatever I'm feeling. Oh, my knee's hurting. Oh, my left eye is twitching, whatever. And I'll say, okay, and it'll give me an answer. I'm like, okay, and I'll prompt it with, okay, explain this to me like I'm 10 years old.
Nice.
And it's like, oh, now I get it, right?
Absolutely.
Because you know all the jargon in
Mhm.
healthcare. I mean, I understand some of it, but not all of
Yeah,
it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I always joke around the house, I do business, not science. It's
I
just
like
not
it.
what I'm gifted in.
I like it. Well, let's talk about how you're teaching founders today with your methodologies.
Sure.
Can you break down for us, how you give folks, I say chaos to clarity, right?
Mhm.
And maybe that's a phrase you use, but how do you take that chaos in a business and with business owners and turn it into clarity so they stop that hustling, stop the solo hustle, if you would,
Yeah.
and then start to build a scalable company? What's the first line of defense from that standpoint?
Yeah, I think it's all about people,
Mm.
which has been a theme for us today.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've realized you need to build the foundation
Yeah.
of people, culture,
Yeah.
and then process. We talked about
Yes.
earlier. But I would say I start with people, meaning the zone that I love to work in when it comes to sharing, teaching, coaching other entrepreneurs, which I do now under Hypeman Ventures. And I've been coaching for nearly a decade. It's just what I love to do.
Yeah.
I found that the zone I love to play in is businesses that are doing, call it, 300K ARR. So, not quite a freelancer, but a freelancer plus,
Correct.
all the way up to 3 million
Mhm.
ARR.
Yep.
In that first zone is where I find a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck. They're trying to get to 1 million ARR. They're trying to get to 84K MRR. And there's something that happens that keeps a lot of people under that. They stay stuck at 300 or 500 or 750 or whatever. And in my first company experience, I was able to break through that. And I look back on everything that I learned to be successful and everything I've been taught. And I was like, it's really about people. You have to set up the foundation and get out of the day-to-day work.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever type of business it's in, you have to start with your admin level, and then you have to go to your delivery level, your fulfillment, your whatever service you're providing to your customer. That's probably what you're doing, and you have to figure out how to get out of it. So, like in the case of Basecamp, the first company, it was about building an accounting department.
Yeah.
We needed to find accountants. We could do the work, sure, but we need to find other people to do the work. Same thing in my marketing agency, Middleman. Getting out of the client delivery of doing the work of the marketing service, that was the key. So it really all starts with people and showing them, teaching them systems on how to hire, how to attract, how to retain, and then how to manage, how to lead. And I teach frameworks and systems.
Mm-hmm.
One of my programs is called Road to 100K MRR.
Mm.
That's really addressing this gap,
Mm-hmm.
because it's so rewarding for me to go into these like smaller teams that are doing a great thing, and they're having fun, but they're just like bumping up against the ceiling. And I'm like, you have to get out of the day to day. That's what I would say that's my specialty. My heart's in it. I love that, to be able to unlock that for an entrepreneur where they're just like, they're good at something and they need the help to get out of the day to day and scale. That's what I really love doing.
It's interesting to me that you had defined your avatar, your client, as 100,000 of ARR to 3 million. And from the world that I live in, 3 million of ARR is where investors begin
100%
to look at these investments.
Yep.
If you're at 200, they don't want you,
Mm-hmm.
right? 200,000 a month, right? They want you at 3 million of ARR. And they will, and even at that point, like you're kind of forcing them to the table, right? There are some that's a hard and fast rule.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
ARR.
Yeah.
But they really want to be at 5 million of
Mhm.
ARR, right? But if you could show them a pathway to go from 3 to 5, and they can buy into that, they'll pursue the opportunity.
Yeah.
But I thought it was really interesting. What was your rationale behind working in that range?
I just read about pain lines
Mhm.
coming in ones and threes.
Yeah.
So 100K, 300K, million, 3 million,
Yeah.
10 million, 30,
Yeah.
100, 300. And there's some different positions and opinions on what you need at each of those different levels.
Mm.
And I just found that I like to create a lot of impact. So I studied this I looked at that level of my network and the people that I had worked with, my own experience, and I just decided on that zone so that these freelancers or entrepreneurs or small business owners had a chance to create enterprise value, right? Like you're talking about, if you're never able to get out of the day to day, then you are the business. You've just built a really great job, right?
Yeah.
And it's cool. Like it's great. No shade. Like do your own thing. But if you can, once you see a path to getting out of the day to day, and then being able to actually work on the business, work on marketing, work on sales, work on leadership, work on expansion, and really build the business and create that enterprise value. I think that for me at the stage that I'm at, that's the love that I want to pour into entrepreneurs. I love entrepreneurship. And at the same time, I had a 7-figure experience for myself. We were a 7-figure agency. And now I'm working on my 8-figure experience. Yeah, I'm elevating and I'm learning from 8 and 9-figure entrepreneurs. So I'm just working my way up the ladder, trying to make sure things are structured,
Correct.
trying to make sure I'm doing things better over time.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking behind like, oh, okay, well, here's where I've been. What did I learn?
Yeah.
Okay, how can I best impact the lives of those people? And my work's been life-changing. I mean, I feel comfortable saying that. It still feels weird, but like the work that I've done with entrepreneurs who are stuck in their business, who are great people, to be able to unlock that time and get their eyes on the horizon, like there's an empire for you to build, but you gotta get out of that. So that's really what I love doing. Freelance the Founder or my Road to 100K MRR program. It's just like teaching these folks how to build traction, build momentum to get to enterprise value.
And what you're teaching them too is, how to build that enterprise value. But they, along that way, in that journey, they discover the freedom. They get to work on the business.
Absolutely.
And they look back, kind of like you were saying, and like, well, wait a minute, look at my enterprise value and how it grew. We have a cool function in Apple Bytes where every frequency you take a valuation snapshot of your business, we apply a stock ticker to it. And so you could see the changes you're making in the business, how it's impacting your valuation.
Oh, that's cool.
And it's really cool because it's just like public stock tickers, right?
Right.
We all want to know because we're invested in these companies in some capacity, but we don't think to do this in our own companies. But it's important because the decisions that we're making today are going to impact the enterprise value tomorrow. And the work that you're doing today is certainly going to impact the enterprise value of a company. And that is by far the best ROI your clients can invest in.
Oh yeah, for sure.
By far.
I get to serve many.
Yeah.
My goal with my content, with my media company, is to inspire entrepreneurs around the world.
Yeah.
Like that, whoever they are, wherever they are, they like the Hypeman vibe. Like that's what I'm trying to do. And working on that tier, I feel like it just allows me to have so much access to people. Something I wanted to give while I'm here to your audience is I have a framework on the systems for building teams.
Amazing.
And I'd be happy to give it out to anyone who follows me on Instagram. It's at HypemanKen, and you can just DM me teams, and I'll like literally send you what I use to build and scale teams, from routines and rhythms and rituals and culture. Just a playbook really on how to build and scale. So I'd love to, anybody that DMs me, I'd love to hand that out.
Thank you for doing that, because folks are always looking for more resources and to learn and to cause that change that they're looking for.
Absolutely.
So we'll also put some notes in the show notes so people could reach out to you as well.
Yeah, I found that the frameworks and the systems of all that stuff is really, that's the feedback that I've had from entrepreneurs that I work with. It's like, I knew some of this stuff, but it was just, it was the chaos. And you took all that and put it into a system where it's like, oh yeah, I've seen this before, but I didn't realize like there's a sequence to build a team.
Correct.
There's a way to manage people. There's a way to build culture and organization. So yeah, it's a good time.
I have a parting question for you. So
okay, let's do it.
Everyone's listening. They've heard your story. They hear what you're doing today. But speak to those that are feeling stuck at, and they're hitting their own ceiling. You said people are bumping their heads against the ceiling. I always say, people hit that glass ceiling. They could see beyond it, but they just keep hitting it, right? So, but what's one actionable advice that you'd give them? What's one shift, a quick win that they could take today to help them to increase the height of that ceiling?
I mean, honestly, for me, it's about, like I said at the beginning, it's about people. So look at your team and make sure that you have not only a growth layer to your business, or you're the growth layer to your business, but you need the support. So I talk a lot about the replacement ladder. It's a 5-step sequence to building and scaling a team. And for me, in my experience, I never hired an EA. I didn't have an admin layer to my first business. I was still successful, but it took me a lot longer than it should have. And I was in my email too long. So following the replacement ladder, making sure you have an admin layer, making sure you have someone looking after delivery. Those are the two components really, I would say that are important to scale. But my other one I just would love to pitch out is having a real clear vision for yourself, investing in yourself. I waited way too long to hire a coach. And I tell everyone, whether it's a friend of yours, whether it's a coach online, whether it's someone, a professor, whatever, go tell other people what you need help with.
Correct.
We all sit in our shells and we don't share. So I would just say, get out there and share. Tell your friends and family what your goals are. Have them laugh at you. If they do, it's good. That means your goals are big enough. And find a coach, find a mentor, anything, anyone to help you. If they have been in the place where you're trying to go, take advice from them. If they haven't been in the place where you're trying to go, think twice about it.
I've had many good mentors over the years, and I've been fortunate because of that. And I'll tell you, I sit here as the man I am today because of those
Absolutely.
mentors.
Game changer.
A game changer. And one of the early mentors in my life was a gentleman named, I talk about him every now and then, but Mong So. He was from Burma. He was my father's business partner. And he grew up in Burma until I think he was age 30. And he would tell me, starting probably 5 years, as long as I can remember, I think it was 5 years old. I would see him once a week, and he would always tell me, Brian, you don't understand the opportunity that you have here in America. He's like, you can do anything. You have so much opportunity in this land. He's like, where I come from, I did not. And he said, and he would tell me every single week. And here I am talking about it 40 some odd years later.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that.
Amazing.
That's inspiring. I
But
mean, it is a real pleasure that we get to do what we get to do, what
We're
we
blessed
choose
and
to do.
fortunate. Yeah,
Absolutely, I agree.
absolutely.
And I'll never do anything but
Yeah.
entrepreneurship on
Love
the
it.
record.
I love it.
Thanks for having me.
Ken, thanks for being on. Have you back anytime.
Absolutely,
Let's
brother.
go.
Appreciate you.
Listen, as we talked about, your business is not just a client list. You are building an asset. And that asset, whether you realize it or not, is something that somebody wants to own. And that's the work that Ken did in his own business. And that's the work that we do at Meritage Partners. So if you're looking to continue to build your empire, I encourage you to visit us at empire-builder.com. Sign up for one of our free webinars to come and learn. Allow us to provoke some thought in you, to cause some action, and allow you to see those and experience those quick wins, right? I really appreciate you joining us on this episode. We'll see you next week. I'm your host, Brian Franco. Until then.